I said wistful twice so far. This is a wistful episode.
It is a wistful episode. I wistfully think that I should have forgot this show.
I don't think you used wistful right there, Gordo.
Welcome back, everyone, to S1E1, a show where each week we pick a different sitcom, watch just the first televised episode, and forgetting anything we might know about the future run of that show, rate it and decide if it's a show we want to greenlight or cancel. This week we're going to be talking about The Tony Danza Show. The Tony Danza Show went 14 episodes with only one season on ABC. Today we're talking about episode 1, which was called Pilot, originally airing September 24th, 1997. So to get things started, I'm Jay Gags. With me, as always, the boys, most of them, Gordo, Joe, and Ferg. What's going on, guys?
Hey yo, hey yo, hey yo.
Hey, Sam, Ziggy thinks that you were sent back to be in a sitcom that's gonna be canceled after only 5 episodes. We haven't worked out the numbers yet, but we gotta try to make it to 6.
Oh boy.
All right, so I've been meaning to do this. By the way, everyone, welcome to week 4 of our extravaganza. We've been doing Tony Danza shows all month long. Gordo, all week you've been just going, ayo, ayo. You know that's not it, right?
What are you talking about?
He does ayo, oh, hey. He goes backwards with it. It like snakes.
It's like his catchphrase. It's the same every time.
No, it's ayo, ayo.
And all month you just keep going like ayo, ayo, ayo. Not it.
It's his 2 favorite letters.
Ayo, oh, way, oh,
There you
way,
go.
ayo, ayo, oh,
It's a little better. We're getting there.
Real quick, S1E1pod.com is where you can find all the links to our social media, everywhere you can follow us, rate, review, subscribe, all that stuff's there. We have a merch page now. Go there and grab a t-shirt or something of that nature. We appreciate it. The Tony Danza Show, not to be confused, by the way, with The Tony Danza Show, because he had a talk show with the exact same name, which makes things very difficult when you're trying to Google stuff.
And aren't they only like a year apart as well?
Yeah, it's like, if you already used up this name, you got to move on.
Yeah. Like, just call it Tony.
I personally don't like when they do the Tony Danza Show, the Bernie Mac Show, the Steve Harvey Show. I think it's super lazy, especially when you don't play. At least Bernie Mac played Bernie Mac, you know what I mean? But when you play a different character name, I hate when you do it.
I agree.
Yeah, okay.
Like, imagine if Home Improvement was the Tim Allen Show. That would not work.
Yeah, it's lazy. The Jeff Foxworthy Show. I forgot about that show. We have to cover that at some point.
Was he Jeff Foxworthy in that? I always assumed so. I never watched it because I don't like
I think he plays a version of himself, but I thought maybe he's a writer also.
Oh, that could be.
It's been a long time since I've seen that. We should just
He
go through and do.
he plays Jeff Foxworthy on the show.
We should do a blue collar month. I'm sure there's a sitcom for Bill Engvall.
Is
had
there
a
a
show.
Larry the Cable Guy show? I'm sure there is.
Was he even a blue collar guy? He wasn't a blue
Yes, he
collar
was.
guy.
Oh,
He was, yeah.
Yes, he
Oh, yeah.
was.
Was he?
Mhm.
Yep. That's how he came to prominence.
Oh, I thought he like got popular right after that.
No. Jeff Foxworthy brought him, Ron White, Jeff Foxworthy.
Bill
Bill
Engvall.
Engvall.
Yep.
All right, that's another theme month we're gonna have to do. We have to look up.
Yeah,
I'm
we'll
sure
look.
every
We'll
one of
have
them.
to look into it and see if everyone has shows.
In
But
all honesty, do we have to?
I mean, those shows will eventually get covered, I'm sure. Anyway,
Jeff Foxworthy show for sure, because I remember
yeah, that was like
watching
a
that one.
real. I think the Bill Engvall show went for a while too. Though. I think it had a few seasons in it.
And then also, just a reminder to all of you guys listening: if you can think of any type of theme month or anything like that you want us to do, I mean, we take suggestions as a whole, but if you have an idea for some sort of a theme month we can do, we're all ears. Usually, our Octobers are covered. Now our Septembers are kind of covered. We have January and February. So that's 3 of the months. We still have, a good 9 months available every year if you want to throw in a theme month once in a while.
January's in January, not February.
It's not, isn't it? Oh, it is in January. You're right. It makes sense.
That's the
now.
whole point.
It's not Fan Brewery.
I don't think Fan Brewery has the same ring.
Fan
to it.
By the way, Larry the Cable Guy, the only television show he was in was Only in America, which was a History Channel show where he went around to roadside attractions.
Well,
And
shucks.
the big ball of yarn. Anyway, see you next week. Like, thanks, Larry. Thanks for coming.
But to focus on Tony Danza here, we've already done, we went in order. We did Taxi, then we did Who's the Boss, then we did Hudson Street. Now we're here at the Tony Danza Show. I didn't even know this show existed. This wasn't like one of those watch it and then it rings the bell. I had no idea this show went super under the radar.
Well, it only went for 5 episodes in a 2-month span. What's funny too is if the version, look, this is a hard to find TV show, so if you find a version of it, it's likely the same one we did, which had the bumpers for the other shows, and the show that it was like coming up next only lasted for 1 month. The same season. It didn't even make it the 2 that Tony Danza made it.
Our version started very abruptly too. It's like they right into it.
Yeah, I mean, full disclosure, if anyone's trying to watch along, we found a copy on YouTube, which is not of the best quality. And I tell you, I searched far and wide trying to find a better quality copy of the first episode, and it does not exist.
There's actually a scene in the episode where the older daughter comes out, and in my notes I was like, oh, she's dressed all gothy, and then they cut to her and I'm like, no, she's not, because it's the quality is so bad that like it just came out, it was so blurry. I was like, oh, she's got like a spiked collar on or whatever, and it was like, nope, she's just dressed like a teenage girl.
It's tough. We've had other shows we've wanted to cover, and we've had similar quality issues, and we've not covered shows over quality issues, but for the sake of an extravaganza, we couldn't not cover it, so we had to just deal with what was available.
I know we were trying to go chronologically, but I kind of hate that we didn't end with Who's the Boss.
Yeah.
That would have been, I mean, I was thinking at the end of this episode we should maybe say what our favorite and least favorite Tony show is.
Yeah, we can get into that at the end. Might as well just jump into it. And the show starts and we have Tony playing Tony again. We've gone over this. All 4 shows he's playing Tony. And he's in the kitchen talking to his boss on the phone. And in the show, he's a sports writer. And basically, like the whole phone call is he's telling his boss that he's going to make his deadline. Everything's going to be fine. Don't worry about it. Whatever happened, he fell a little bit behind. And as he's going through the phone call, there was a nice moment. His daughter walks into the kitchen while he's on the phone, and he gets like hit right in the face, like mid-sentence.
He takes the bump.
Yeah.
I will say, too, one of the first things he said, he's talking to his boss, and he's like, don't shoot the messenger. It's not my fault. They shot the messenger. Where I was like, whoa, that's kind of dark for like the first joke of this is like, I gave a bike messenger my story. He got murdered on the way to the newspaper office. It's like, isn't that the plot of Quicksilver with Kevin Bacon?
You know what's funny? I didn't put 2 and 2 together. That's what he was talking about.
Neither did I.
It makes sense now, but yeah.
Yeah, like they actually just killed a messenger, and they're like, lol. I'm like, okay, well, we're starting off dark.
And his daughter walks in, and it's like one of those like sitcom-y things where he's like, hey, what do you want for breakfast? He's like, you promised me you'd make me a Spanish omelet. He's like, oh, I didn't get to go to the store. I was like, but you promised. It's like, you're not young enough to be this upset that he can't make you a Spanish omelet right now.
And not a great first impression on me. I'm this character.
No, yeah, that also.
Also, I looked up a Spanish omelet, and it's much more like a quiche. Like, it's a big, thick, heavy potato and egg. Like, I was like, what kind of omelet is that? That would be, like, the worst thing to eat, right? And then run out of the house to go to school.
It's when you get to drop a deuce in the toilet.
Well, it's fine because we know she doesn't go to school. Oops, spoiler.
Well, she goes to a school.
She does.
Yeah, my guess what a Spanish omelet was is not what you said. I just assumed that it had, like, peppers and onions.
It basically does. That's like the majority of what's in it.
Yeah, but it's potato based in it too, so like it's heavy.
Oh, then they should call it an Irish omelet.
Potato man.
You know, one thing that I picked up on with this show that was kind of an issue I had early on, and you see it throughout this scene and then kind of into the next few, but there's like this ongoing, like almost like underlying anxiety because he's under like stress the whole time and running around and trying to keep things in order. So everything's so chaotic throughout the first half of the episode, more than half really, that it's like unsettling to watch at times. Did you guys get that?
I can see that for sure. I picked up on a little bit of it too because it's the Mrs. Doubtfire thing we talked about in a couple episodes ago, where it's like the family gets divorced and now the dad's trying to spend time. Like, that's the nicest apartment for a just divorced sports writer dad. Is that apartment too nice, you think?
This one, I didn't think this was that crazy. No.
No, I mean, considering that it's an apartment and whereas Raymond had a house, I think that's a pretty good downgrade.
Right, but he just went through a divorce where ostensibly he would have had to give up half his money.
Yeah, but maybe he had a house like Raymond, and then he had to have an apartment.
I don't know, it just seemed like an expensive New York apartment to me.
I didn't get that vibe because, I mean, the way that this is described is we find out that he keeps the kids because the wife's always like on the road for work. So I don't think there would have been a world where like he's getting bumped out into a tiny apartment and gets the kids I didn't read it that way, but I thought it was a more realistic apartment compared to other sitcom apartments and stuff, like because the kitchen was so small.
The kitchen does feel realistic.
Could have been worse. They could have started with a reverse marriage.
Extended family. Ba-da-da-da.
It took me a second there. I thought you were making a reverse mortgage joke. It's like, what are we? I was like, what's the punchline he's going for in this?
It's not Selleck-Timber.
I mean, we could do Magnum PI.
Oh,
Tom Selleck.
Tom Selleck. Oh, it was like
Selleck-Timber.
I thought it was like some sort of a product you were talking about. I was like, what the fuck is Selleck-Timber?
I wish he had enough sitcoms to do Selleck-Timber.
I mean, he was in Friends a bunch, but I don't think I know for a fact actually he wasn't in the pilot.
No, he wasn't. I mean, his big thing recently was Blue Bloods, wasn't it?
Yeah, that lasted for like 12 seasons or something too, like a really long time.
We also meet his other daughter, Mickey, which wasn't Mickey the name of his son in Hudson Street?
I blocked Hudson Street out of my mind by now. I don't want to talk about it ever again.
I spent so much time of my life doing notes, watching and talking about Hudson Street that I had to push it out of the way so I could think of something else.
It like flagged my ear as soon as he said it. It was like Mickey. Yeah, because Mickey was his son in that. So I don't know why 2 shows in a row he has a kid named Mickey.
Because of Mickey Mantle. Ugh.
This went in chronological order, right?
Yes.
So like he can only keep track of his name. So maybe it's only fair that like other people get the same name around him.
This is the doorman, Mona.
The doorman's name is Goldberg. Come on.
When we meet Mickey, who's the other daughter, her thing is that she's like a hypochondriac. She's constantly suffering from different ailments. She walks into the kitchen here and she's saying that she has malaria and claiming to have a 108-degree temperature.
Isn't malaria one of those things too that you kind of only get in other countries? Like you get like traveling abroad.
I don't even know if I think it's like a dead disease now.
No. If you go to like India or
I think
you
like
go to
Southeast
like jungle,
Asia.
yeah.
Because like that was a big thing for Vietnam. Like people going to Vietnam, you had to get like malaria vaccines or shots or pills or something.
Yeah, even if you travel to those regions, I think you have to get your vaccines for that.
You know what's crazy? Just a quick Google search. Just wondering like what was like the top temperature a human can live with, because I always hear like, yeah, 104, you're basically dead. 104 to 122. I was like, 122?
Yeah, but it basically fries your brain. I mean, that's what happened with Mike Von Erck.
I didn't know you could. I did not know you could go to like that level of temperature and still survive.
Yeah, you can survive it. I just don't think the quality of life afterwards is similar, you know?
Have you guys ever had that high of a fever, like 104?
Not that I can recall.
I did once. When I had COVID.
When I get sick, I really don't get a fever. I seldom get one.
I can't think of anything more than like 101 for me,
Okay.
to my own memory. I mean, I'm sure there's exceptions that I maybe when I was younger, but
Yeah, I had 104 once when I had COVID, and it does loopy shit to your brain.
Yeah, when you basically sleep through a lot of that, when you're awake, you're not in the real world.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, you're like hallucinating, like you're like things aren't real. You don't want to do anything. So this daughter would not even be out there talking about cupcakes or pancakes, whatever she is.
no, it's the other daughter. It's not the same daughter.
It's funny because this kid is what everybody is now with WebMD. It's like,
Right.
Yes.
thank God
True.
she wasn't born in this era.
Well, I don't know. Maybe she went on AOL and looked up WebMD.
Yo, when they brought up AOL.
I try not to call out everybody's past credits too much, unless there is something specific, but the older daughter is Fanny Schrute, Dwight's
Oh.
sister in The Office.
Oh man, I can see it now.
She was also in something else too. That thing. Hold on. Never mind. Just don't pay attention to me. She was in Roswell.
Did you watch
Like-
all of Roswell?
Like consistently or like in a
Said
random
that like
episode?
it's a show we all watched.
No, it's just something that I've seen her in.
Isn't that the alien teen drama from like 25 years ago?
Yes, it is. She looked familiar to me, and I was like, oh, I think I know her. And lo and behold, Roswell. That's where I've seen her.
It's so wild to me that we do a show about sitcoms and we're all like, she was in The Office, and you're like, I don't know what the fuck that is, but I've seen her in Raw as well.
I mean, we'll talk about it when we get to The Office. I've only seen a handful of episodes.
It's a bummer because the pilot is not the best Office episode, and I feel like you're going to watch it and you're not going to watch another handful more, probably.
Probably not. If I haven't at this point, I'm not going to.
So during all this chaos, he's on the phone with his boss. Both his daughters are in the kitchen. One's claiming she has malaria. The other one's upset that she's not getting a Spanish omelet. He's trying to offer a pancake to his daughter. He's like, you love my pancakes. He's like, I never said that. He's like, well, now you can start. And he gives her like a packaged pancake from the fridge. And she's like, it's cold. It came out of the fridge.
Those are waffles for sure, though, too, right?
They make pancakes like that as well.
They make frozen pancakes like that? I've never seen frozen pancakes like Eggos.
Oh, yeah. But why was she so shy? He like literally took it out of the fridge and handed it to her. She's like, it's cold.
Why did he take it out of the freezer? Like, it was really weird that it came out of the fridge.
He was panicking. Also, they weren't paying attention to little details like that.
Apparently not.
Weird. It's almost like this show got canceled 5 episodes in.
And then in the heat of all of the chaos between everybody and both kids complaining is when he does the thing with he grabs his daughter's hand and like Mickey's hand and puts it on top of Tina's pancakes because one's running hot and the other one has cold pancakes. And
Yikes.
You know, that made me laugh.
I thought it was funny-ish.
I had a couple funny laughs in this for sure. I'm not saying I didn't. I tracked them down in my notes, but this one I was just like, oh, come on.
But I laughed at the concept of it, and then I'm like, wait, does that mean he believes she really has a fever or does have a fever?
No, I think he's just calling her bluff.
We all know it's bullshit that she's not really sick, so why would he do that?
Either way, he's just sending his kids off to school with no food.
And then from there, we get into the intro, and I gotta say,
woof.
This intro sucks.
It doesn't fit the fucking show in any way at all.
So the music's bad, and then they use the same music for the interstitials, which is even worse. It's just like ooh, and it means nothing. And it's just like it looks like for the intro, they had a couple shots from the show, but mainly it was just like random shots that they happen to have filming when like they were cut. You know what I mean? It's just like people like standing around and like looking off into like the abyss. You're like, what is this? Like, it's just like random found footage.
There's like one of the oldest daughters sitting in like the director's chair. I'm like, oh, we're breaking the fourth wall already. Like
that's what the whole intro is. Though. It's that kind of stuff. Yeah. It's just like the behind the scenes type of footage, which is
there's one where
weird.
He plants a real big kiss on the little daughter in one of them too.
I was gonna bring that up. He loves to kiss little kids on the lips that aren't his kids.
Also, it sounds like Cyndi Lauper singing too. Like I'm like, who is doing? I couldn't find any about who sang it.
The guy who Cyndi Lauper is so talented, and that song.
I love Cyndi Lauper. I'm just saying, it sounds like someone's doing a Cyndi Lauper impersonation, trying to.
I'll
do
have
that
to
tone.
play it again and Shazam it or something. 'Cause I don't know. I wouldn't even know.
That's not a real song. You're not going to get anything on that.
You'd be surprised.
I would be shocked. I'd be more than surprised. I'd be absolutely shocked if that was a real song.
Now, my favorite thing about that intro was Tony Danza doing like a little shuffle in the director's chair. Did you guys catch that?
Oh yeah, the Tony Shuffle. Hey yo, oh hey,
hey yo, hey yo.
Yeah, this was also, I will say, the most of the time font ever. When it pops up at the Tony Danza Show, it was like,
and it's all like sepia tone. Like what are you doing? Are you trying to bore everybody?
Oh, it's so weird.
What network was this on?
ABC. Every Tony Danza show is an ABC show.
You think maybe like he had in his contract they had to give him another show and they just threw this shit at him knowing it would get canceled?
Who wrote this show?
Who wrote this specific episode?
The one who wrote this is the creator of the show. He also wrote on like Wings and a bunch of other shows. So it was a guy who's got a lot of TV credits.
Oh, okay.
Oh, you know what? I'm very sorry. First of all, I have to go back. My intro is a lie. This was an NBC show.
Okay.
I'm not going to redo the intro, but NBC. All the other shows were ABCs.
I guess that takes away from my theory.
Wasn't Taxi on NBC at the end?
Taxi changed. It did change, yeah.
Yeah, like the last season it changed.
Okay, so there's some history there.
Yeah, I mean, very small ties. Yeah, I don't know. This intro left a real bad taste in my mouth. It really like bothered me how bad it was.
Yeah, show's not off to a great start with me hating the daughters and a terrible intro.
From the intro, we get to Tony in the living room, and he's with Carmen, who's like his assistant, and she's transcribing this article for him. So he's a sports writer who can't type.
A writer who can't type. That makes no sense at all. That also,
no, he hates technology, guys. He's afraid of technology. It's not that he can't type.
Think of the end scene of Stand By Me, where it's like this, right? Where it turns out he's writing this sort of like wistful story about his childhood, and he's writing it on a computer, and that is a good decade before this.
Yeah, even though for 97, AOL and stuff is like somewhat new, but I mean, it's been out for a couple of years now. But yeah, being that unknowing as to how to like even use a computer seemed for his profession seemed a little weird.
He would know how to use a typewriter for sure. It's not that far of a leap to use a typewriter to a desktop computer.
I'll also say it seems a little weird for just like a random sports writer to have an assistant
that he's paying directly. They make it out that because she's like, I want a raise, or I'm on unemployment, I'll make more money. Like, he's in charge of the salary somehow?
Like, how much money are you making as a sports writer that you have a personal assistant who basically just types for you?
Yeah, they haven't established that he was like I could see if he was a top sports writer in New York City. Okay, totally makes sense.
Which I think he's supposed to be, right?
I guess that's what they're implying, but they never say it.
We don't really know his like level of popularity as a writer. We just know that
it's got to be pretty high if he can afford to send each daughter to a private school while living there and paying an assistant. And what did that computer cost back then? That computer that he doesn't use costs a fortune.
And if he ran out of AOL discs, he'd have to fork up a lot of money for more time online.
He absolutely would.
It was fun though, as he's transcribing, and it starts with that shot of the screen, and you see like the typing, and it just, I don't know, just the nostalgia at the time. If you're watching this in 97, obviously it's not nostalgic, but to watch it now and kind of just see like that old, like just the way everything looks different before they update. So like seeing an old word processor and all that stuff was kind of fun.
Man, if they only hit us with a "you got mail," man.
They weren't going to shell out the money for that.
What really bothered me is this is when they established he fears technology. That's why he doesn't use it. That's why he has all this. They never explain in the entire episode why he fears technology. It's just
right.
He fears technology.
It's just, there are people like that though, where it's not, I mean, most of the people I know, like my dad's one of those guys who just didn't like follow technology as it went along. And it was never like for any underlying reason other than it's different and I don't want to learn something new.
But I'm sure he has a smartphone, right?
Kind of.
Kind of is close enough, you know what I mean?
He just got one recently, and he still has a second phone, which is a flip that he primarily uses because he can't quite figure out how to use his smartphone.
I mean, hey, look, I held on as long as I could. I held on for longer than most. I get it.
Tony's story, he's like telling like a story of Mickey Mantle, like going up to the plate, and how it was like this great moment watching the game with his dad. And there isn't like a spot where he tells like about like a glance he shares with his father, and Carmen kind of gives like this like look to him because I don't know, I felt like they were almost hinting like that was like just a subtle hint that there could be romantic interest between the two of them down the line.
I think this was an immediate will they won't they vibe for both of them.
I didn't get that vibe. I got the vibe from her as she thought it was cute because she's a girly girl.
I don't know. I felt like the way she looked at him, she gave him like a glance that was almost like she saw a different side of him when he said that.
Yeah. I mean, I could see that. Also, too, this article is super short. This is not New York paper sports writer, #1 sports writer article.
It's like an NPR story, though, too. It's not like a newspaper sports writer column where it's like, and then my dad and I, and a tear in his eye, and Mickey Mantle and a home run. That's like not what those articles usually are at all. Usually it's about like interviews and things that happened in games, and not like a wistful story of 50 years ago. I said wistful twice so far. This is a wistful episode.
It is a wistful episode. I wistfully think that I should have forgot this show.
I can't forget what I never knew.
I don't think you used wistful right there, Gordo.
And then when he finishes up this article, he's like, all right, Now time to proof it, print it, and we'll walk it over to the newspaper. And she's like, what? I'm not going to schlep over there. Like, we'll just run a spell check, log into AOL, and then attach a file and email it over. It was like, it was, I don't know. It's funny. Like, I don't know. Something about mentioning the attach a file, like all the details, like, but the AOL mention was fun.
This felt like a Dusty Rhodes promo. It's like, because a computer took your job, daddy. It's like the proofreader is fired, the courier is shot dead and fired.
Well, it's fun because like she's mentioning all these details because they're new features that, you know, they're not used to. So you would never like, if I was like, oh, I'll email that to you, you'd never be like, yeah, I'm going to log into my computer and then I'm going to attach a file and run a spell check. But these are all like crazy new things for them at the time.
Yeah, that's true.
This feels very much of a, what they probably should have done is gone through and done like a huge 10-minute long computer-based Who's on First gag at one point. Because I think that probably would have been like a super funny addition to this episode.
I don't know if you're being sarcastic because they very much did that later.
Yes, I am being sarcastic. Watch the episode, right?
I did not pick up on your sarcasm.
I was like, that did happen later.
I apologize, I was being too dry.
Yeah, he's getting this. This is when he's first like very anti-computer. When he's starting to say like, don't use those words around me, because we see her transcribing for him, but we don't know it's because of his unwillingness to touch a computer up until now.
My wife cheated on me with a computer. I hate it.
A tune dropped a computer on my brother. Now I'll never be able to use one ever again.
But yeah, now it's getting to this point where he's talking about how he doesn't even want to touch the thing. He's like, come on, touch it. I know you want to touch it. And they're doing that playful back and forth. And
this is very seductive.
Yeah. And it gets to the point where she's like grabbing his arm and trying to get him to get near the computer. He's like, I don't want to touch it. Come on, just touch it. And while that's happening, the door opens. And that's when Stuey walks in. Stewie's the doorman, played by Shaun Weiss, who you would know as like Goldberg from the Mighty Ducks and from Heavyweights. So it was like, he walks in and instantly says, I'll touch it, not knowing what's going on.
He is very funny in this.
He is.
So unfortunately, because of our shitty quality ones, I couldn't tell it was him. And I had to wait a while. And I'm like, is that Goldberg? And then I had to look it up. And then later I could clearly see, because he's a little older than what he used to. Well, now he's a lot older, but at that point.
You can hear it in his voice and the way his like delivery is very similar to anything else you would know him from in the past. And Shaun Weiss is one of those guys now. Obviously, like he had a lot of struggles with addiction and arrests and stuff, but he's been like on the upswing again. So like,
yeah, he made it through the other side.
Yeah. So now it's 2024, and over the last year or so, we're seeing him back on social media and being funny again, which is nice to see.
I think it's like 4 years sober now.
Yeah. When you look back at like all his old stuff, like we said, Heavyweights, Mighty Ducks. He was so, I thought, one of those guys who's like, his charisma like took over almost every scene he was in all the time. Even when he was in a scene with 10 other kids, he always like shined through at all times.
He's the kid you remember from Mighty Ducks. You don't remember Charlie the way you remember Goldberg.
Something about him, yeah. It's just he always took over.
I remember Goldberg and Hans.
Always out on the ice, Gordy.
Have some hash and eggs.
Don't knock over all those hockey sticks, Gordon.
Was Hans played by Master Splinter? 4 baby ducks.
That's Hans Urokusaki.
So, yeah, we get the thing with like, Stuey, what'd I tell you about barging in here? He's like, I believe your exact words were don't. But he's here to drop off the Yankees tickets that just arrived at the door, which I guess are a gift from Tony to Carmen.
That seems like a pretty nice gift. Like a gift you might give someone you've got some feelings towards.
I assume they're comped because he's a sports writer.
Yeah, he probably gets tickets to like all the games, but she's pretty excited about it. And
do you think he just pays her in sports tickets?
Maybe.
Well, from what we hear, he pays her very little. She's not making a lot of money. And then Stewie's asking Carmen, so when are we going on a date? She's like, in your dreams. And that's when she leaves because she's going to the game now. And now that she's out of the room, he goes, in my dreams, we're way past dating. Thought that was a great joke.
That's probably the best line in the whole show.
The punctuation on that, though, too, is that when he says that, Tony goes, "Oh," and smacks him, and I laughed so hard at that.
One critique I would have about the show, at least in this episode, is we don't get a lot of Stuey, and I feel like Stuey needs to be in these episodes a lot more than he is.
This is like the Jamaican waiter in Hudson Street, where you're like, this needs to be a show where this person is in the episode way more.
Because he like brightens up the scenes he's in.
Yeah, he really does.
Can we get a show with the Jamaican waiter and Stuey?
I mean,
It's Arnold's Caribbean Pizza. I told you.
Are they both in it?
The waiter from Hudson Street's in it.
and unfortunately, there's not a season 2 directly to YouTube of Arnold's Hawaiian Pizza, so I don't think there's a chance for Stewie to show up.
No, it's Arnold's Jerk Chicken. That would be the season. Get it?
No.
Oh, like seasoning.
Yeah. See,
I'll
Joe
give you
gets
that.
it.
I'll give you that one.
I don't even know if that's where he was going, but he was waiting for someone to give an answer so he could pretend that was what the joke was.
No, that was the joke.
Right. So the thing we know about Stewie too is Stewie is the doorman, but he's a kid. He's kind of young to be like not a kid, but
He says he's New York's youngest doorman.
he claims to be the youngest doorman. Yeah,
He's 18 when they filmed this, so he's like a legal working aged person.
that was his real life age. Was 18.
Yeah, I mean, he could be playing young, obviously, it's acting, but
Yeah, but I'm sure he's supposed to be right in that range. But we find out that he got the job so young because it's his dad's building. So that's how he got to be the door guy.
Hey, it's not a bad gig.
Is that still like a...
Yeah.
I've always
It
seen
is.
them on TV, but like I've been to like apartment buildings, but I've never seen like a door guy at any apartment building.
Probably more upscale hotels than anything.
No, if you live in a upscale enough, like luxury building, they have them. They have like, I bought a motorcycle from a guy who lived in Chinatown, and they had.
Pardon me. No. Let's not tell the story like you're the coolest guy in the world, Harley Davidson. Like you just went and bought a motorcycle. You went and bought a what?
A motorcycle.
That's not what you bought.
Yes, I did.
You bought a scooter.
I sold the scooter, and then I bought a motorcycle that blew up on me twice.
I have maybe your gas leak. I don't recall you having a motorcycle ever in your life.
I had a very short-lived stint where I had a motorcycle, and it
How
blew
short?
up.
We've all known you for like 30 plus years. None of us have any recollection of you having a motorcycle.
Because it blew up on me twice while I was on it. It caught fire twice while I was on it. And after that, I said, God does not want me to ride a motorcycle. And I gave it away.
I love you, but you're fucking lying. Your
You
motorcycle
want me
did
to
not blow
Give
up.
you the pictures? I have
Yes.
a video of it smoking.
What kind of motorcycle was it?
It was a cafe racer. It was a Honda 1984 Honda CM400.
Okay, so it was like a Hawk, like streamlined, smaller bike.
Correct. Yeah, it was a actual small bike. Let me pull up my things here. 2017. This is in all the poop.
Right now
The
he's
poop years?
Googling stock pictures of motorcycles.
He's photoshopping furiously now.
Roto, why does your motorcycle picture have a watermark on it?
It's a picture of Tom Cruise and Top Gun on his motorcycle.
Listen, I am gonna find this, and because it was right when I started dating my wife. I was gonna say my current wife. It just would also be factually correct, but
Your first wife.
my first wife, yes, yeah. This is my motorcycle. That was it when I bought it.
Why does it say motorcycle.com on the top?
Auto Trader.
Yep, and then this is the fire department putting out the fire on my motorcycle.
That's a real man being like, move out of the way, little boy. We'll take care
Pretty
of this
much,
fire
it
for
was
you."
only kind of smoking, and they were like, "What do you want us to do with it?" The person that I did buy to get back into why I originally told the motorcycle story. In this guy's apartment building, he had a concierge, like a legit security guard.
In Chinatown?
In Chinatown, it was like a fucking in a place that you would not think.
But I feel like guys who do security is different than having like that typical doorman that we see in television and movies all the time, who have that kind of bellhop almost look to them. Who are like, "Hey, sir, how's it going?" Like, "Hey, Fred, like, elevator's down again, huh?" Like that kind
How's
of
the wife
guy.
and kids, Mr. Mackey? Like,
Yeah, you see like those characters all the time, but like I know there's buildings where there's like security guys who kind of hang out at the desk when you walk in.
Yeah, well, it was kind of like that, but it's kind of the same thing.
I bet, like, if you're in, like, upscale New York, I bet you there's a bunch.
We went to a show in New York once, and a friend of a friend's mom had a apartment in a building like that, and we all ended up there, like, very drunk at, like, 4 a.m, and it was like we get snuck in when, like, they distracted the doorman, because there's, like, no way, like, he knew her, because it was her mom's place, and we had to all, like, rush in, and then it was, like, this beautiful, like, lower Manhattan high-rise with all glass windows around it. It was like the fanciest place I've ever been in my entire life. Places like that, I think, have that kind of concierge versus just security.
It's the reason why none of us know that life. It's like, did those exist? We'll never know because we're not rich.
Yeah, we make so much money off the podcast, we can probably eventually get there.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll just have to sell like 10,000 more shirts?
Something like that.
So if you're listening, buy a shirt.
Tony's telling Stewie, hey, put your eyes back in your head there, pal. That woman could hurt you. He goes, that was in my dream. And that's when he like kind of kicks him and was like, all right, get out of here. And he as he's leaving, that's when the daughter's walking. There's a lot of this you'll notice too throughout the episode. Whenever like someone leaves is exactly when someone comes in. It's like almost like, I don't know, it feels like almost unnatural because it's so robotic timing all the time. But now the kids are there. I think Tina walks straight to her room. Mickey sits on the couch and Tony walks up. He's like, hey, what's in that bag? And she's like, oh, it's Primo, Dad. It's from Thailand. And he thinks it's a giant bag of weed. He's like, oh my God. How many times did I tell you to just say no?
This plays well. I got a laugh out of this. Saying Primo, the little girl calling it Primo, I think was what really did it.
We find out it's just herbal tea for her arthritis. Again, this girl is maybe 9, maybe.
I think she's good in this. She does not do a lot of acting after this.
I was going to say, when I looked her up, this was the picture from the show was on Wikipedia or on Google rather.
Yeah, we say a lot with the child actors and shows we cover where like it's like one credit and it's just whatever show we do.
Well, she was terrible in this, so.
Oh, I don't think she was that bad.
I think she was bad. I wouldn't say she was terrible in this.
She wasn't bad, but I didn't like her character. So it's like you gotta not judge her by the character she was playing.
I imagine that is just like drilled in every episode as this goes on too. Where like it's always like 3 new diseases she thinks they have.
Yeah, I wonder if, I mean, that's, for this episode, it's kind of fine, but I can see this getting old real quick if that's like her thing constantly. Although you guys were on different like sides than I was back when we did Trial and Error and there was like the receptionist like there. She had that thing where she had like all these like legit ailments and there was like 3 of them come up in that episode. And I was like, okay, enough. Like, I think it should have been like one an episode, but you guys were loving it.
I don't remember any of that. It's been so long.
You don't remember that at all? Really?
I don't.
I remember she couldn't recognize people's faces. She forgot them right after.
But I can remember penises.
Okay, nope. I was conflating the show we did recently that I remember very much. I watched both seasons of it with that movie Trial and Error that's Michael Richards is a lawyer. And I was like, I can't remember a scene in that where there's somebody who has a bunch of fake illnesses, and then it hit me.
Well, you should at least remember that we didn't cover that on the show.
It's the one with John Lithgow.
Yeah. And the principal, the girl who has the stuff is the principal from Mr. Iglesias.
You loved that show.
I did. I watched all of it, and I was very mad when it just ended with no
I hate that show so much.
No conclusion.
So now we get like a transition, like after that whole, he thinks that he's drugs and stuff. She eventually leaves the room. Now we have the other daughter, Tina, come in and she's trying to rush out the door, but Tony really wants to have a sit down with her and talk to her for a bit. And she does not want that. She's old. She's the older of the 2 sisters. She's like in high school and definitely doesn't want to have like a sit down with her dad right now, but he gets her on the couch and she's kind of one-wording him. He's like, so how's everything going? Fine. Everything's good. Yeah. How's school? You know, it's school. Like, oh, like, well, she says school. And he goes, oh, I got 2 words out of you on that one. And he's like trying to say like, hey, like if there's something bugging you, like, let me know. Like you could talk to me. Even though like mom's not here, like you know, pretend I'm your mom. It's like, okay, mom. And he goes, yes, dear. And she goes, so when you're tongue kissing a boy, and he's like, whoa, pretend I'm dad again. I'm dad again.
I thought they were going to go with the period route. They went with that instead.
Yeah, me too. I really thought it was going to be period.
I think that's a better route.
It is a better
Yeah.
route because I didn't see it coming. So I just thought that was the way they were going.
Is that I mean, none of us here, obviously,
Have periods?
have periods or are girls. I'm just saying, like, but that seems like a weird question. Like, I can't imagine asking a mom that.
I don't know. I mean, it's never been.
Yeah, like, I don't want to speak for anybody. I'm saying that seems.
Well, no, she wouldn't have asked her mom that. That was just the question to drive Tony away and end the conversation.
But I don't know if that's. I know there are some girls that are super close with their mom and like will talk about like sexual things and stuff like that. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know like what's normal, what's not. I'm a guy, and me and my dad didn't talk about that stuff. But
Yeah.
I get it, the whole angsty teen thing, but it really bothered me in this show because he's such a nice guy and a good parent to the kids that like this angsty teen, like I hate everything bullshit really like didn't fit with their current living situation.
yeah, but especially in that time though, like especially in the 90s, like that was like the height of like your angsty teens, like where all over television and stuff too. And it doesn't matter like what kind of family you come from, like that's just how kids were turning out in that era.
This is the era of, like, my so-called life.
Exactly.
But unlike shows like Roseanne, it's like Darlene was the way she was because Roseanne would give it back to her. It was like back, but Tony's just a super loving dad who just wants to talk to his daughter, and he's happy anytime they have their like little cuddle times on the couch and stuff. And
You know when he was super sweet too? Like she's trying to leave and he's like, well, where are you going? Out? Who are you going with? Friends? When are you going to be back? Whenever. He's like, oh, let's see, we're having a conversation. He's like really trying. And then it's like, well, okay, can I go now? And he goes, well, sure, now that I know the details.
see, he's a sweet guy.
He is a sweet guy. He's playing very sweet in this.
For whatever reason, I thought it was one of the funniest things in the whole episode is when he said that.
We didn't mention it, and this is insane to me because this show only went 5 episodes before it canceled, but Tony wins a People's Choice Award for Best Male Lead for this show.
For this show.
Really?
Really?
Yeah. That's insane, right? Because he's so lovable, because he's Tony, right? Like, you can't be mad at him. You totally can see he's so good in this. But it's just so weird, yeah.
What was he up against?
Good question.
I did not look up the entirety of the 1997 People's Choice Award nominees. I'm sure we could look that up real quick if you wanted
There's
to.
a lot of huge shows going on in this era of the 90s.
Yeah, that would have been like Seinfeld, Frasier.
97, is Fresh Prince still going?
Maybe towards the end of it, yeah. Roseanne was in its final seasons. I think 97 may have been the final season of Roseanne. Grace Under Fire, great male lead in that. It could have been The Good Dave Thomas.
Stop that.
I think it's weird that because there were 14 episodes, only 5 of them made it to air is like kind of crazy.
It must have been a bad year.
Is there any access to the remaining episodes, or are those just lost to time? Because I know this didn't come to DVD or streaming.
Yeah, you'd have to see if YouTube has anything or Daily Motion, but yeah, it's
Like, did Australia finish this show like with cavemen?
oh, lucky for us.
I think those ones I think are just fully unaired. I don't know if they were even edited or finished, right? Because they may have not even had to go back and like they may be like, they didn't put music in them or finish the editing because they were going as they went in real time.
I can't fathom completely canceling a show after all that hard work. Like, move the time, like just put it out there because all the work was done. You're not killing you if you put it in the morning or on a different day.
Like I said, the show that was premiering after this first episode lasted even less time. And that had Elvin from The Cosby Show in it.
So after Tina leaves, Mickey walks back into the room and she's sitting on the couch right as Tony's opening up a letter from Tina's school. And we find out that he has to see whoever wrote it, the principal, whoever, like see them at the school. He's like, please see me. Mickey's like, that's never good. And he goes, come on, how bad could it be? And then like flash cuts to him in the office with the principal.
I do appreciate the aggressive jump cut here.
You're kicking her out? First thing I noticed was like, this office is so nice.
It is, yeah.
The private school.
Yeah, but this was like rich businessman type of office. And this is just like the principal of this small private school.
It was probably someone in the studio's actual office.
It's like the head of NBC or whatever. It's like Brandon Tartikoff's office or whatever. This is a new character, too, into the series of characters that we've lovingly referred to as horny characters. This is Horny Miss Cooper.
Yeah.
Oh, it sounds like a movie.
I'd watch Horny Miss Cooper.
It's right after Driving Miss Daisy, yeah.
Morgan Freeman's also in it for some reason. He's in both. Or name is Cooper.
You see him in the office, and we find out that Miss Cooper says that Tina doesn't respond well to discipline. Well, not everyone does. He's like, I know. I went to Catholic school too. He's like, I went to St. Paul's. Those cranky old nuns. We used to call them menopause.
I laughed so hard at this joke. It was like Saint Menopause, and then his like trying to walk it back after he says it. I was like, that's the best piece of writing in the whole episode.
He's continuing on. He's like, kicking her out. That's like a little drastic, no? Like, it can't be that big of a problem. And that's when he finds out Tina hasn't been to school in 2 weeks, and she's failing every one of her classes as a result.
That's a failure on the school. This part really bothered me. Why wouldn't they call him after she missed a couple days or a week? 2 full weeks?
I feel like if I cut school for a day, there'd be at least a call to the house.
They called when we were kids. Yeah, if you skipped school, they called.
So, yeah, it is a little bit of a problem. I can understand if we talk about this all the time. Sometimes it's just one missing line that could fix that. And she could be like, we've been leaving you voicemails all week. Or I've been emailing you all week would be the way to do it. We've been sending you emails.
Genius.
Been replying.
That's fucking great. Yeah, there it is.
Well, it's right there. Come on, Tony.
God damn it, Tony.
Tony.
God damn it, Irv.
And we say it all the time. Like, I by no means am claiming that like I am better than all these television writers, but sometimes just on the fly, the quick resolves that we all have thought up. And you go like, how does a team of writers in a room not be like, this, just do this and this makes more sense. This half a second of dialogue will fix everything.
Writers, producers, executives at the network, nobody sees this stuff sometimes, yeah.
This is why we need to like offer our services.
Yeah, you can offer. I don't know if anyone's going to take us up on the offer, though.
How about 5 idiots punch up your script for a whole bunch of money? Like, no, I don't think so.
Sure, let me put you on hold.
We got a job at like Tubi. It's like, guys, we got hired to work on some Freevee originals. It's going to be fantastic.
I would 100%. Money is green, Joe. Tubi CEO, Mr. Tubi, if you are listening.
Greg Tubi.
To Greg Tubi.
So now he's trying to get his head around this idea that his daughter's been skipping school for 2 weeks because she leaves every day in her uniform. And Miss Cooper's starting to ask, like, are there any problems at home? A lot of times when we see like a kid having issues like this, it usually stems from something going on in the house. That's when he tells her like, well, I did just recently separate from my wife. And we find out that Miss Cooper is also recently divorced. She says, did it come as a shock? He's like, well, I think it's always kind of a shock. What do you mean? She says, I caught my Barry in our shower having it off with a waitress from our local coffee bar.
Having it off is a great expression.
That sucks. Then now you can't even go to the coffee bar anymore if you're like you guys and love coffee.
Yeah, I would be pretty bummed if like the coffee shop I like to go to was automatically not a place you could go. That would be like, yeah, double kick in the pants.
Those types of things are deep cuts. That doesn't ruin just that coffee shop. That like ruins coffee shops in general.
She's a tea drinker now.
Yeah, it's going to trigger you for the rest of your life.
Yeah, you're always going to be weary now going into a coffee shop.
He's like panicking about the situation. He's like, all right, just if you could just give me some time to talk to Tina, like, give me some time, like give me like a week or something. And now she's reflecting on her situation and you just hear her go, bastard. He goes, all right, well, just maybe a couple days.
I really do like his character in this.
I'll say this, and we talked about this when we was at Hudson Street too, which if go back and listen to it if you haven't already, but it was not our favorite show.
I think that's a rare 5 out of 5 cancel, right?
Yeah. And Tony still is great in every show that we've covered with him. Tony is consistent. You gotta give him credit. Honestly, like we did the extravaganza because it's funny and it's like, all right, we'll do 4 Tony Danza shows. It really exposed to me to watching 4 different shows of varied levels of quality and seeing how consistent he is regardless of the script. You know what I mean?
Yeah, he's not only a good act, he's so lovable. Like they don't just give you a talk show for nothing. Like that transferred into like, oh, he's like America's dad. Like, look at this guy.
So I gotta say, like, this really did open my eyes to just how good Tony Danza is.
Yeah, the range of Tony Danza is great.
I wouldn't say range because he's pretty much the same person in every single one of them, but That's a great person.
After Taxi, he's just Italian dad and everything. Italian dad who likes baseball.
Oh no, last week's episode he loved basketball. That was like the basketball centric, like, oh, my Knick tickets. And this whole episode is, oh, the Yankees tickets.
He loved basketball and Who's the Boss too. Every 2 seconds he goes, let's go shoot hoops.
Yeah, that was one of the shoot hoops. That's how they solve all their problems.
So it's just he just likes those two sports, yeah. Because we also know that he was a retired baseball player in Who's the Boss. So
And a field goal kicker.
And a field goal kicker. And garbage man.
we're talking about television screen Danza.
But he was also a boxer in Taxi.
Yeah, it's
Taxi,
true.
yeah.
And I think in real life, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think so.
And he was a pitcher, but he cheated because he got helped by angels.
Well, the Angels were so mad at him cheating that they gave him cancer and struck him down very quickly. Weird darkness of that movie.
The dark ending of the movie. He's going to be joining us soon.
We need a pitcher on our team.
It's not even said with like any real like air of sadness too. It's just like, oh, by the way, he's gonna die soon. Like, oh,
That's like so much more sad than when Babe Ruth comes out in The Sandlot.
Babe Ruth is just a dream.
Yeah. But, well, I don't know. I kind of thought that he was maybe a ghost, not a dream.
I don't know. That's pretty grounded in reality.
I mean, worried about getting beaten up by Dennis Leary seems very grounded in reality.
so this scene closes out by her now like really lost in the idea of like her ex. I guess she hasn't thought about her divorce in a minute. As Tony's trying to talk to her, he just starts breaking down and like starts like crying into his shoulder.
I wish this ended with her being the new mom. Yeah, I got you a new mom.
It doesn't get addressed, but I feel like this connection between her and Tony would potentially give Tina the in to get back to school, like the option to like not lose your spot.
This is a Forrest Gump scenario. Tony is going to sleep with horny Miss Cooper.
Oh, I didn't think necessarily to that degree, but I felt like maybe just the connection of shared experience would maybe allow her to just kind of open her heart to the situation, knowing that Tina is now the child of divorce.
That was the real will they, won't they of the episode, okay?
Tony and Miss Cooper.
Hey, I like older women. I used to go with this girl Mona.
In the next scene, we see Tony hanging out at a bakery where his dad works. And I didn't think that this was great casting because he didn't look like he could be his dad.
He looked like his brother.
I just thought it was like a coworker. And then it didn't hit me. Wait, no, Tony's a writer, but like I just thought it was his friend from work.
No, it's his dad.
Yeah, no, I got that by the end when he says like, "Oh, if you hurt my granddaughter, I'll run you over." Like,
And Joe, like by your face, for the record, I'm not saying that I thought he was a bad actor.
No. That's what I thought you were saying at first, and that's why I didn't say anything. Because Dean Stockwell's a great actor, and I think what you just said is a compliment. He was much older than Tony, but he did not look... I think, too, because we all know him from Quantum Leap mostly, where he's like a sex hound constantly and like acting very young. You know what I mean? Like when I think of Dean Stockwell, I think of like 3 performances, and that's the first one.
Yeah, just like I got more vibe that like he should have just been like a buddy of his or an older, like he looked more older. But now I'm sure the age gap is bigger than I realize it is. But looking at them side by side, and Tony in 97 is, I mean, let me do some quick math here. Tony Danza, born in 51. So he's 46 at the time. Like that doesn't look like that guy could be his dad. Because his dad should be roughly 70.
Dean Stockwell was born in 1936.
Quantum Leap's ended by now, right?
So they're only 15 years apart.
Yes, it's not that much difference. Yeah, Quantum Leap's over at this point.
So yes, technically that could be your dad, but
I mean, uncle, I could see.
Like his dad's younger brother.
Yeah, like his dad's youngest brother, but
He should have been the wife's brother. He could have been this show's Polly.
Oh.
I gotta watch.
This lousy Nolex watch. He's got like a Nolex or something in that scene.
Something about seeing the two together really threw me the whole scene. Like it just distracted me.
yeah, at first what I thought was that it's just a bakery that he frequents. And he was just like a friend that he was asking for advice.
He calls him pops and stuff, and like there's a lot, like there's some dialogue that alludes to the fact that they're father son.
I mean, people can have nicknames.
Yeah, like he should have been Pop. He should have been, yeah, I go and get coffee here every day, and this is the guy who runs it, who I like. He's my bartender. and you don't make it a family connection.
What if Tony's dad is the person that Miss Cooper's husband was sleeping with?
Dun, dun, dun.
I mean, looks like they were drinking coffee at that bakery. And he was flirting with that girl when they walk in. I think you figured this out.
The bulk of the conversation between Tony and his father is really Tony explaining the situation with Tina and his dad kind of giving him it's like that tough line, right? He's like, you got to be tough with them, but you can't be too tough, because if you're too tough, they're going to rebel against you, but you can't be soft with them because then they're not going to listen to you. And it's just Tony trying to figure out, well, all right, so what am I supposed to do here? Because it seemed like no matter what he did, it was going to be the wrong answer.
I mean, I think that's relatable, though, too, right? When you're like, I'm not quite there yet, Ferg. I'm sure you can attest to this, right? But like, that's going to be, I'm sure anybody who's a parent relates to that scene, right? If you're trying to get Tony's side of things.
Now, I know Martha is, entering her teenage years. And she has been a little, rough around the edges, so to speak. So it has been challenging for my wife and I.
As we record this, we are like 3 days out from actual Father's Day, and I'm just trying to think of what infuriating thing you're going to do on Sunday.
We've been bringing this up all throughout the extravaganza. Gordo has not picked up on it. Every time Gordo refers to his dog as his actual child, Berg gets shoot pissed. Like, you could see it in him. Like, he's legit angry every time you say it.
There's no smile and no ribbing and trying to make a bit out of it. It's just stop. Don't.
No, according to social media, Gordo's got a lot of support on this. So I'm not going to rattle any cages, but you're not fucking parents.
Listen, I have to drop off my dog at daycare every day, just like every other dad.
Leave it in the apartment.
No, she needs stimuli.
Not getting into that.
She's gonna walk away from it.
You'll understand one day. I mean, as a dad, you should know idle hands are the devil's work. That she'll destroy the house if she's just left him bored. And plus, I don't want a weird person coming into my apartment when I'm not here.
You don't physically need someone to look at your dog at all times. They can be alone. Do you know how many homes have pets?
A lot.
Yeah. Not everyone has pet sitter. Like, I have a dog. The dog is home alone sometimes. Yeah.
Sorry.
The time I came home and Bailey warded off the wet bandits, I was like, what? What happened here?
Now, Jay, what's Bailey going to get you for Father's Day?
We don't celebrate, and I'm technically Bailey's uncle. But, and that's if we wanted to play the fictitious world that there's human relation with other species. But anyways, to go forward and not talk about this for another hour, like we've been talking in every other episode, he has a talk with his dad, and it's just kind of that whole, like, the fatherly advice. And that's the only time we see the dad this whole episode.
I feel like we get Stuey more. We get to more than this, and we wanted more Stuey, but I feel like we could have used more of his dad in the episode as well.
I just don't feel like he comes off as his dad, so it's like, it's tough.
It didn't bother me like it bothers you. Like, I don't know. He looks old. The thing with Tony is, when Tony was young, he looked like this, and now he's older, he still looks like this. So I really don't have much of a grasp on Tony's age. So I can't say that, like, he looks so much older than Tony.
Yeah, like, they just kind of shortened his hair and put older clothes on him every different show he's in. And that's just, like, the only way you can kind of tell he's aging. Like, at this point, he's dressed like an older guy.
I bet if you see him now, he looks the same.
He has, like, long white hair. He looks a little different.
I was going to say, he's probably gray, and that could tell you the difference. But I bet you have that same handsome face and that great butt that Nick pointed out.
Where's the new Tony Danza Show?
Get on it, Netflix.
Hey, Freevee, we're looking in your direction.
Yeah.
Crackle, what are you doing these days?
Written by the S1E1 podcast.
In the next scene, we have Tony walking back into his apartment, and Stewie's just, like, hanging out on the couch with his feet up. And he's telling him, like, Stewie, how many times do I have to tell you not to come in when I'm not home? He's like, well, how am I supposed to know you're not home until I already come in? And then he goes, I'm going. And as he leaves, Tina enters, and Tony's like, hey, Tina, can we have another mother-daughter conversation real quick? Can you please sit down? So they sit down, and Tina's like, all right, Dad, what do you want to talk about? He's like, oh, I don't know, makeup, the weather, the fact that you haven't been to school in 2 weeks. She's like, how'd you know that? I went and saw Miss Cooper. Horny Miss Cooper? Did she hit on you? That's not the point.
Do you think horny Miss Cooper just makes it a point to try to get people to come into her office all the time?
Oh, she's trying to get them to come into her office. All right.
I think it was funny that she's being referred to as horny Miss Cooper. I don't think she was acting horny at all that whole scene, though. She was just sad that her husband cheated on her.
Yeah, she was just acting. She was more like depressing Miss Cooper.
Yeah, like maybe if she had made more passes at Tony in the scene, it would make more sense. But I didn't get the horny vibe from her at all.
Grab that butt.
This makes me wonder, like, what's she doing in front of these kids that she's got the reputation of being horny Miss Cooper?
That's true.
Locker room inspection. No, Miss Cooper. Not again.
It's like the scene from Major League when the owner comes to the back. They're all just standing there naked.
So he's asking her, like, hey, why haven't you gone to school? And she's like, because I don't want to go to this school. She's like, my friends aren't here. Like, I miss my old school. And come to find out, that's where she's been going every day. So she gets ready every morning and just goes to her old school. He's like, what the hell are you doing there? He's like, you're not enrolled there anymore. She's like, don't worry, I'm not going to classes. I'm just going to hang out. Like, she thought that was his concern.
It's like those depressing stories where, like, I can't tell my wife and kids I got laid off, so I get up every morning, I shave, I shower, I put a suit on, and I drive to a park bench and sit there for 8 hours and come home.
I understand the idea of it's a new school. You're at an age where it's real tough to start over. And all her friends are at this other school, and she just got ripped out of it for no reason. Well, there was a reason. Tony was afraid because there was, I don't want to say a shooting, but a kid put a gun in his back pocket and shot his own butt.
Self-inflicted gunshot wound.
They said it was a 22, which, like, 22s are the guns they let you use, like, as a Boy Scout. Like, they are not, I mean, any gun is dangerous, but.
Yeah, I feel like a 22 is the gun you use to, like when Joe Pesci shoots that woman in the head in Casino, and he, like, wraps his arm around her and shoots her in the head. Use a 22 because it's not going to go through the other side. He's
like, yeah, well, there's still a shooting. He's like, I was like hardly in the line of fire. He's like, the line of fire. And he's super, like, I get it. He's being a dad and he's being protective of his daughter. And he heard about a situation with a gun. And he's like, all right, that's it. I'm taking you out of here.
He's not wrong.
Did he possibly overreact when you find out the real story?
No.
The real story doesn't change it. He was still a student at her school with a gun. He just didn't happen to be there and he shot himself. But that means there's kids in this dangerous school carrying. Anything could happen. You don't take chances.
Yeah, that was either bringing the gun to school or had it on their person after school.
Here's my thing with that. This is obviously a much longer conversation we could have, and it's a serious thing. But what's going to stop someone from doing that at a Catholic school?
Nuns with rulers.
Jesus Christ, Jason. Jesus Christ would stop it.
The nuns just take out rulers. But I don't know. It's tough. I see his point. I see her point. It's real tough to rip someone out of, like, high school.
They're kids. You make new friends.
But think, like, we all started hanging out in elementary school. Imagine when, like, high school came, like, none of us went to one of the private schools. Like, I don't know about, I applied. I almost went to one.
I just went to Devoke. Not that our listeners know what that is. But.
Yeah, that's why I was vague about the school. But yeah, I got accepted to one of the schools. I just didn't want to go to it because, like, well, obviously when you're 14, you're not even thinking about, like, the long term. But I was like, my friends are all at this school, so I want to be at this school.
That's the most important thing to you when you're that age is.
Yeah, so I see why it's so important to her.
She acts like she can't hang out with them after school.
Yeah, right.
But again, put yourself in her shoes at that age.
You know when else she won't see her friends? When they all go off to college and she can't because she dropped out of fucking school.
Yeah, but she's 14, so she's not thinking of that.
That's why she needs a good father like Tony Danza.
And the nuns to beat the Lord into her.
I kick ass for the Lord. I will say, though, her error here is going back to another school. That's, like, to me, that's fucking up. You're in New York City. You have anything in the world at your disposal. You know the kid from Last Action Hero? He just, like, goes to the movies all day? I would do that over going to a different school all day.
But again, remember, the underlying reason she doesn't want to go to the new school is she misses her friends.
Sure, but you can get friends to skip with you
certain days. She's not seeing her friends if they're in class and she's just going to the school.
All different kids hang out in the lunch area the whole time. Different kids are rotating in and out. You get friends in all different classes.
Yeah, but I feel like the school will figure that out.
Yeah, that's not gonna last long before like the principal or somebody's like, didn't you stop going here?
Well, yeah, obviously there's going to be some plots to the logic that goes behind some of this, but yeah. So he's basically telling her, listen, you're going back to school and like that's that. And she runs into her room and Tony goes to chase after her. But as that's happening, the answering machine goes off and it's his boss saying, hey, I never got that column from you. Now Tony's like running back into the other room trying to get the phone in time, but he misses it. And then he looks over at the computer.
This is like where the episode starts getting like super anxiety ridden for every character. Like there's not time to get all the stuff done.
And now he's going like to the computer. This is all your fault. You sit there so smug because you fool some people because you look all friendly like a TV, but you're not a TV. You're an evil TV.
We talked about Tony Danza Show being a lazy title. Evil TV, better TV show title.
This is another one of my favorite parts is him just cursing at the fucking computer.
Evil TV.
It'd be like a commercial break that hits right here because you kind of get that fade out, fade in, same room, but like some time's gone by.
You also get a little banner at the bottom too that says the Tony Danza Show, which is it flagged me.
Weird little effects pop up. Like the only show that really did that then was Seinfeld, where it would like sometimes show the Seinfeld logo like when it go to commercial, with the little like oval logo.
When it does come back from what would have been a commercial break, Tony's finishing up on the phone with his boss and basically finding out that like, you know, when he can get his stuff in. And Mickey walks into the room and Mickey's like quick to be like, Dad, I had no idea Tina was ditching school. He's like, that's okay, Mickey. I didn't. He goes, and if I did, I would have sworn to secrecy. He's like, that's okay. And he's like, well, I mean, you can appreciate my situation, right? Like getting caught between a secret on one hand and not wanting to participate in her lie on the other. So she's just like all this guilt because she's obviously known that her sister wasn't going to school. So she's kind of leaking all the information to her dad at this point.
I feel like being that racked with guilt can cause actual infirmities. She might give herself one of these. I don't think she'll give her like cholera, but it'll give her something. He's
trying to get in touch with Carmen to figure out how to email this thing out, and he can't get in touch with her. And that's when Mickey's like, hey, didn't you give her tickets to the Yankees game? He's like, oh, Mickey, I love you. And gives her like another big kiss. He does like kissing his TV kids.
Right on the lips. It's weird.
I see your point, Ferg. I don't look at it that way because I don't. Maybe I just trust Tony too much, but
I don't think it's not trusting Tony. I think it just doesn't work for TV.
I think in his brain as an actor, he's like, this is what I would do with my kid in the situation. So he's playing it like, I'm a dad. This is what I would do to my kids.
It's not common because I think I would have noticed it in other sitcoms, and I can't think of any other time where this has been a mwah right on the lips, like.
But it's like consistent with him through at least like the last few shows we've covered with him.
Yeah, he seems to like doing it.
Yeah. So now we cut to the game, the Yankees game, and you see Carmen there on a date. And over the PA, you hear, will Carmen Cruz please contact your employer? And like she jumps up. And when she jumps up, she like drops her hot dog on her chest and gets like mustard all over herself.
This was S1E1 porn right here. Just mustard everywhere.
Apparently, this is the most embarrassing thing on earth to her.
I don't understand why this is so embarrassing.
Well, she was probably embarrassed by the idea that she was called by her boss over the PA, but to jump up like that, I don't know how she ended up dropping the hot dog. And then someone, I think, spilt a beer on her too.
And then like the boyfriend's like looking away like, oh my God, I'm with the hot dog girl.
I think it's like I'm caught on the Jumbotron with mustard all over me. It's probably the embarrassment, I'm guessing, less so the call.
For this show kind of being wholesome, this felt very boob heavy to me. It seemed like this scene was like, they were very focused on her chest.
She's got some big boobs. Like
she does have big boobs. But I think that like this felt weird, right? Because they were like sexually gazing her real hard on this, when like that's not the tone of the rest of the episode as well.
So Personally, I don't think that's necessarily what was going on, like camera-wise or anything. I think just the outfit she happened to have on was so form-fitting and like a smaller top that it's going to be on your mind as you see her.
Sure, and then you cover it with mustard so you're looking at it.
But that's just her thing, too, though. Like earlier, this is the whole, come on, just touch it. And then later, Goldberg says the dream thing. We do more in our dreams. So everything involving her is sexual in this show.
I guess it's a good point. Her character, like the sexuality revolves around her, but not everybody else.
Sure. I don't think that this was meant to be like sexualized, but her outfit was very form-fitting. So you're naturally going to notice. And then when she drops something on her chest and you're meant to look at her chest right after, then yeah, it definitely puts that story together.
And then right after that, Tony's talking about vibrators, so.
Well, she gets on the phone, kind of. It cuts to her. She like walks away. She gets on a payphone and she calls Tony. And the first thing she says is like, "Are you out of your mind? Like, I had my beeper. You could have just paged me." He's like, "I don't trust those things. Sometimes they beep. Sometimes they buzz. Sometimes they vibrate. It's like some kind of little perverted telephone."
Better name for this TV show. Perverted little telephone.
Perverted telephone and evil TV.
But yeah, that was almost like, I know earlier we've said like we're kind of establishing his disdain for some modern technology, but I didn't want to page you because they buzz and beep and like, that was a little bit of a stretch.
And on a pager, you use a phone. So he's like, it's old technology he's used to. She's not paging him. He doesn't have to use a pager. He just has to call a number.
Call the number and then I get the beeps and I'm confused. I don't know what to do.
I wrote 911 by accident. Ooh.
But it's like his disdain for electronics, again, never explained, but it's also inconsistent because, I mean, he has no problem watching TV and using his VCR to record the games.
Well, he's not Amish, but you got to remember, this is the time where like the internet is like changing like household lives, you know, the way that it's being used in the homes. And that kind of fear of moving on to new technology, I can understand.
A beeper's not old, though. A beeper at this time isn't new technology. We had beepers then. We were kids.
Yeah, but that's when they came out. Yeah, but like when they were being like popularized by most people was probably right around this time.
Yeah, I guess it was like mainly just doctors had them really until this time.
And now it's gone full. Now it's like full circle. Now those are the only people that have them again.
Yeah. I'd like to get one.
Why?
Because we all got beepers, we could just beep each other. It'd be funny.
Incoming Force 69, 42069.
I'm making a note here in my post-its for tomorrow morning to look up beeper prices.
We could just text each other. Beep.
Yeah.
You could get the beeper app.
I need at least one other person, Gordo. I'm looking in your direction. I need one other person to get one.
No, that screams Nick. Nick loves technology.
Oh yeah,
Nick will do that with you.
Nick I can see Nick doing it too.
She's talking about how embarrassing it looked being like, you know, plastered on the Jumbotron or whatever like that. And she says, while I'm woofing Coca-Cola through my nose, she's like, "Do you know how stupid that looks?" And he's like, "Actually, I do. I was watching the game." And he starts talking about like her nostrils opening up and looking like the Holland Tunnel. And I'm like, when was she snorting Coca-Cola?
Yeah, how much of this scene did they cut away from that we didn't see that they left on television?
They probably had a bunch of different takes. Like, I bet you one, she was drinking and spilled Coke all over herself, but then like now she's in a wet t-shirt. They're probably like, that's too sexual. So they went to, she drops a hot dog and gets mustard on her boobs. But that's not
the way they talk, the way he responds too, like, "Oh yeah, I was watching that." Well, we didn't see it. We were watching her too.
Also weird the way she says Coca-Cola. Like you say Coke.
Not in the 90s. I used to say Coca-Cola.
Not when the story is that it was going up your nose.
Oh, you know what? There it is. Yeah.
If you just say like, "Oh," and everyone saw me put Coke up my nose, you go, "Wait, what?"
And as we discussed previously, that's the 90s when Coke was still good.
So now he's telling her like, "Hey, Carmen, like the paper didn't get my article." Like, "No, that's impossible. I sent an email." It's like, "Well, maybe the e-dog bit the email man and then had to go to the emergency room."
That was a long road to get to emergency room that they took there.
But he nailed it.
I liked it. He's like, "All right, well, we'll send it again, but you're going to have to do it." It's like, "Oh, no, I'm afraid of that thing." Like, "Oh, yes, I know. Now, come on, I'll talk you through it."
This is like in movies when it's like, the pilot had a heart attack. It's okay. Somebody at ground control is going to walk you through landing the plane. They treat this with the same severity as that, when it's just him trying to open up a word processor.
I'll say, though, it's as crazy as it is, like, we all had moments trying to explain technology to our parents at one point that felt like these moments.
Sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, he was at a point where I thought it was he didn't even know what the mouse was. Like you have one in your like you're that behind, you don't even know what the mouse is.
Yeah, I think it was pretty common at this point that people would know at least the parts of the computer.
And I did think that this whole, Joe, you referenced it earlier, they do like this whole kind of who's on first thing, talking about clicking the icon and, you know, the word and all this stuff. And it's a long back and forth. And for a phone conversation, they're mostly showing us a split screen of the two while they're doing it. The timing and all of it was really good. I thought it was, if they didn't film like side by side and like, you know, in the same studio, like at the same time, like it was edited or something like really well, because it was real quick and sharp, and you had them in two different areas doing the call.
How do they do something like that in front of a studio audience?
There's different ways.
I imagine they probably split the studio into like two parts.
Provided it even is a live studio audience, which we don't know.
That's true.
But there's also situations where you could have two different sets side by side because it's a big studio.
Yeah.
And you could have them both talking at the same time. I just thought something about it. It was so quick and back and forth. And for them to not be together during the scene, I thought was actually done really well.
I think it was like Aunt Becky's monologue in Hudson Street, where it's like, she did a great monologue. It just wasn't necessary and didn't make any sense. And this, I felt like this scene, they were both great at doing this. I think this was just going a step too far.
I don't know. It's funny because I guess when I keep thinking about it, I keep thinking about my dad, who's so bad with computers that it's not that drastic of a step from what a real conversation with him would be like to explain some of this stuff. So it doesn't like, in my brain, doesn't become too unrealistic that it's taking me out of it, because I can see myself in the situation.
I think your dad would know what a mouse is.
Maybe. Now,
I think that's a little far, the whole him not knowing what the mouse is on the computer.
I will say, though, when the mouse thing, she says, and it's got a wire like a tail, I was like, whoa, is that part of why they called it a mouse? I didn't ever think of that before.
I had the same thought.
Yeah, me too.
You gotta remember, too, like 97? Does my dad know what a mouse is in 97? Maybe not right away. I don't know. But like I said, it just didn't feel too crazy to me at that point. But yeah, the conversation's going on for a while. She's getting frustrated. She eventually starts yelling in Spanish. Meanwhile, Tony hears his daughter's screaming in the other room. So now he has to hang up with her, and he like runs over to the daughter's room. Tina was like stealing Mickey's tea and wants to like flush it down the toilet because it smells.
I thought she said she wanted to touch the toilet with it.
Oh, she was going to flush it because it was stinking up the room.
Yeah, she's going to flush the tea because it stinks.
Oh, okay. That makes way more sense.
Is there like an old superstition we don't know about? Like if a bag of tea touches a toilet on the 17th floor.
Maybe it's just my hearing that I misheard it, that I thought they said touch instead of flush.
It's possible. Again, we didn't watch the best of quality, but...
Yeah, I mean, this is a terrible quality thing. I'm sure we all messed stuff up. I said earlier, I thought there was a totally different vibe on that one girl because she couldn't see.
And then because Tina's kind of harassing her sister, now Mickey's saying, I should have ratted you out for cutting school weeks ago. But now she looks at her dad and goes like, if I had known. Tina's saying there's too much disharmony in the house, and that's why she's getting all these diseases. And Tina's like, you don't have any diseases, Mickey. One sneeze, you think your brain's melting out. It's like, that's happened before. Not to her. She was talking about a story in Pennsylvania. Tony's like, all right, you two, like, that's enough. He's like, what's going on with you guys? He's basically at a point where he's like ready to give up, right? The stress of everything that's been going on for the last couple of days with him is finally getting to him. And he's like, you know what? You don't want to go to school? Don't go to school. You want to be sick? Go ahead, be sick. He's like, I can't do it anymore. And he just leaves the room.
In all fairness, what the fuck did Mickey do? He goes off on her.
I think he's just so stressed about the sick stuff all the time.
Yeah, like, I don't think she's done anything bad per se, but I think on top of everything else going on in his life, the fact that she's running up to him thinking she's got malaria or something else, like, at all times, like, it's probably, like, just making things more and more stressful. She's also talked earlier about wanting to ward off modern medicine, and she's got this stinky tea, so it's probably a lot.
With the stinky mushroom tea, I couldn't help but just think about the mushroom water we almost sold.
Magic Mind, we could say it. They're not paying us, but...
I couldn't say it because I couldn't remember it.
Oh.
There's a free advertisement for you, Magic Mind.
Yeah, give us our 40 cents or whatever you offered us.
I It also felt very MLM too. Wasn't it like, you guys buy some too, right? We're like, well, get the fuck out of here.
Yeah, we have to buy a case of it or something like that.
Yeah, we'll talk. Well, we can talk about it real quick. As most of you who listen to us know, we really haven't had any ads over the last 3 years, and not that we're unwilling to. If any nice sponsors want to come our way, by all means, we will take the money. We won't try to overly annoy you guys listening with too many ads, but we did get hit up by them at one point and looked at the offer, and it just didn't make sense. And I think there are people who would just want to have it just to say they had a sponsor, but it was a combination of, first, the money was not right. And then second, it was, we talked about it. To those of you listening, we do actually appreciate and care about the people that listen to us. And it just felt like if we're going to promote an item to our listeners, the idea of promoting an item that we didn't actually believe in seemed dishonest to just get you guys to click a link where we would make a few bucks.
And also, I think anybody who's been listening for a long time too would be like, there's no way any of these 5 people are drinking mushroom water. Like, it's so obvious that it was a ruse,
Ferg's been really into nootropics lately.
Nootropics,
although I will say, if we can get the fucking testosterone one that Frank Thomas is part of, and he can like make fun of me for not being a real man and then tussle my hair, I will so do that.
You went from Joey to Joe. I don't know. I don't think Frank Thomas talks like that, but
Frank Thomas is going to sue us now for slander.
He'll never see this.
Probably not.
He's too busy fucking all the time because he's got all the testosterone.
He's banging all those women at the country club that are like, Frank Thomas, I shouldn't know who you are, but I do.
That's so aggravating. You have no idea who this 30-year-ago baseball player is.
Horny Miss Cooper, meet Frank Thomas.
So, that is something I would believe in.
Next time we see Tony, he's now in his living room watching the Yankees game, sad. And Tina walks out from her room and joins him. And she's like, so what's the score? 5-4 Yanks, 9th inning, no outs. Baltimore's got 2 on. We find out now the bases are loaded. Someone got walked. We can hear the commentary on the TV. And it's just kind of quiet between the two of them because he's just giving up. There's just too much stuff going on with him at once. He can't keep up with it. And he's just trying to drain out the world and watch this game. But Tina gets close to him and she puts her head on his shoulder. And then he's finally getting some positive reaction from his daughter. So he's like, ooh, eventually puts his head on hers.
His slow head down smile starting to creep up was very sweet.
Yeah, I thought it was a sweet moment. And she's saying I screwed up, huh? I was like, yeah, oh yeah. And they have the kind of talk that you'd expect them to have in this moment where it's I'm just trying to watch over you. And, I worry, obviously, being your dad, I might be a little overprotective at times. And then he's asking her, did you really hate the school that much? And she's like, I miss my friends. I don't know anyone at this school. I just feel really out of place and I'm alone there. And he's like, I know that feeling. He's like, I know this isn't just about school. I'm sorry your mother and I split up. You're probably hurting. I'm hurting too. And we can get through this together. Now it's okay, well, now what? He's like, well, now you go back to the Springer school and you go back to every class and you make up all the work you missed. She's like, okay. And what about after that? He's like, after that, I don't really know. I'll be honest. I have no idea what's next.
I did like she was I think banking on more leeway there. And he's like, what do we do now? It's you go back to fucking school. I'm your fucking dad.
So now he goes, hey, I actually do have an idea. Remember those bets we used to make? And she's like, yeah, you still owe me $20 million from the 89 series. You didn't get the check? And then he goes, well, let's make another one of these bets. He's like, if the Yankees can get out of this inning without giving up a run, then you can go back to your old school. Now, mind you, this game, for those of you who are familiar with baseball, there's 3 on base, no outs. And the last guy who just got on was with a walk. So it's not a good sign.
Any contact will score.
Yeah. So not looking good.
It's almost impossible not to get a run
to
in
give up
point.
At least a run.
Yeah.
Over the next 3 outs. And she's like, that's not fair. She's like, the bases are loaded. That's a sucker's bet. He's like, that's all you got. Take it or leave it. And then the two do some sort of a pinky swear to solidify the deal. Must be a thing between the two of them.
I wonder if you see that again in other episodes if they keep making bets.
That's like their thing between them, yeah.
Right, because they mentioned they've been doing it or they used to do it.
And they're watching the game, and through the commentary, you can hear that the Yankees somehow managed to pull a triple play. And it's like, well, how about that?
Thanks to Wade Boggs.
Yes, I did notice Wade Boggs got mentioned, but this was as the Yankee, so it's not as a Red Sox guy. I don't want to acknowledge, even though he was down with WCW.
Wasn't he like best friends with Mr. Perfect?
Him and Mr. Perfect were super close friends.
Yeah.
You ever see the picture of Wade Boggs with the flock?
No.
I'll send it to you guys. Or maybe I'll post it in our stories too at some point this week, just because it's so random. It's hilarious.
Like him and Raven and Kidman.
Yeah, it's honestly a hilarious photo. So she's saying like, Dad, you were gonna let me go to that school either way, right? And he's like, oh, it's your choice now. So decide what you want to do. And then as they're having their moment, Carmen walks in straight from the baseball game. And she's like, okay, I want to raise and I want no argument. Like, otherwise your article sleeps with the flying toasters, which is a joke from earlier. I think I didn't get into, but there was a point where he didn't know what a screensaver was.
I went down a rabbit hole of the flying toaster screensaver. Did you know that the reason it went from having wings to having a propeller is because they got sued by fucking Jefferson Airplane?
I did not.
Yeah, so they had like some album from the 70s. I looked up the album cover and it's got flying toasters on it. And they were like, that's our thing. So they were like, oh, I guess we don't want to be sued by these boring old hippies. I guess we'll change it to propellers. And that's why it had to change.
You know what? First off, I regret that I glanced past that at the time. But thinking back at that whole screensaver scene, one thing that bothered me was the time that was lapsed from her typing would never have, there's no way a screensaver would have popped up that quick.
That's one of those things, too, now that I feel like younger generation are going to have no idea what a screensaver was. Like, your computer usually just goes black now and goes to, like, sleep mode.
I used to love making it say inappropriate things and then leaving the library.
Nowadays, that would be the least inappropriate thing to happen in a library computer, so
yeah,
you're
true.
probably okay.
Mickey walks into the room and she joins her dad and sister on the couch and tells Tony that he seems stressed, so she made him some brown mushroom tea. And like everyone looks on as he sips it, and it doesn't look that good. I don't think he enjoyed the taste, but he does say, you know what? I think this stuff really works. I feel incredible. Now, is that him feeling better after sipping it, or is that him trying to be a good dad and supporting Mickey's things that she's into?
Definitely a good dad scenario.
I think it's him saying what's working is he suddenly has the love of each daughter on each side, and his life's turning around now. So all that stress is gone.
He does read the line, though, like it's an infomercial. Like, it's like 3 a.m, you can't sleep, and it's like, she's incredible. It's like, that like really over.
So after that, Tony walks over to Carmen, and he's talking to her as she has to like re-email the thing. He's just saying the article's ready, and he's like, oh, hold on, I got to change something real quick before you send it. And she's saying like, oh, you owe me big for this. Like, I had to leave my date, and I missed the rest of the game. And he's like, oh yeah, sorry, like the Yanks won on a triple play, and tells her that I taped the game for you. And she's telling him, oh, you didn't have to do that. He's like, it's okay. I was just watching it again with Tina, and let's just say it came in handy.
It was all his plan.
Yeah, the bet that he made with his daughter, he knew the outcome. He knew they were getting out of the inning without the run rather.
You imagine if the irony was the show got canceled because she went back to that school and got shot up?
Really kills the moment.
Episode 5 is just really fucking dark, and the network's like, sorry, we can't go on with this.
This is why you don't go with your emotion. You send that kid back to the private school and don't let them get their way. She got rewarded for skipping school for 2 weeks.
That's a good point. She did skip school for 2 weeks and get no punishment at all.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, there might be a punishment attached that we just don't know. But yeah, it does. We don't find out one way or another. The episode closes out with Tony transcribing to Carmen like the end of the article, where it originally just talked about like, how like sports provides like these moments between like a father and his son, and then goes, and for that matter, a moment between a father and his daughters.
Oh, cool. So your article doesn't make sense now because you didn't mention your daughters in the rest of it.
Yeah.
Like, way to go, Tony.
Your 1-paragraph article.
As he's saying that, it's supposed to be like a loving moment. You see the two sisters are like fighting over the remote and like screaming at one another. And that was the conclusion of the Tony Danza Show, the not talk show.
Well, then there's the credit scene too.
I didn't think that was. I was gonna bring this up. I think that was just a weird cut. I think that was like part of another episode or something.
No, the credits were running over it.
Yeah, the credits were on it.
So was they talking about the Dodgers game?
They're asleep on the couch, and Goldberg walks out because he's in the house again with them all asleep.
Oh, I don't know. I didn't notice it for some reason.
Yeah, he was like in the kitchen and Tony's asleep. And then he like sneaks out.
Oh, all right. My bad.
That's it. But that ends
And that's the end of it.
the episode and the extravaganza.
It does indeed. So we've now covered all 4 shows with Tony Danza. Joe, you mentioned before, I mean, to wrap it up, usually all our episodes are a little kind of one-off, but to go back to the last few weeks, I guess, and now that we've looked at all these shows, I don't want to say they got worse each time, because I know some of you guys would rank Who's the Boss 1. I think Taxi was his best show. Without doing a full ranking, if you just did best worst, I would say I think Taxi was the best show and Hudson Street was the worst show.
I go the exact same with you.
Yeah, I agree with that.
No, I would go Who's the Boss, followed by Taxi, followed by this, followed by Baby Talk, which we didn't cover this week, but we covered a while ago, followed by Hudson Street.
Baby Talk was not good either.
Baby Talk,
No.
If we included Baby Talk, which you guys can't go back and listen, we covered a while ago, where it's basically Look Who's Talking, only Tony Danza is the voice of a baby. That's probably the worst one, if we're being honest. But
I give Baby Talk credit because it was so weird and so bad that it was good. That was in that category where I at least enjoyed hating it, where Hudson Street just infuriated me.
yeah, that was a tougher watch.
Hudson Street was tough to get through, man. That was a tough episode to watch.
I'm kind of, I mean, I know it's because he started doing other things, right? He did some serious shows and he was doing more movies, but after this is it for Tony Danza doing sitcoms. So he went from basically the late 70s to the late 90s being in sitcoms nonstop
Yeah, constantly.
to just kind of being done with it, and hasn't done a sitcom in almost 30 years now.
You guys think he pops up randomly as like an old guy in a sitcom?
There was talks about bringing back Who's the Boss.
That got killed by the pandemic, didn't it? Or
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like, I don't know how many people were going to come back for that one. I know him and Alyssa Milano were both supposed to, but
You know what? He'd be a great type of character to pop into a show like Arrested Development, right? We have like sort of like irreverent, weird show. Like when Scott Baio just pops in for a few minutes and you're like, oh, that's super funny. It's a person you haven't seen in a while. And then they're not like the focal point of the show.
Oh, I think that maybe like a Danny DeVito type on Always Sunny.
well, I could see him doing something on Always Sunny would be fun, just to reunite
Yeah.
the two. Like a one-off would be like
Yeah.
fun.
You know what? I can't believe I forgot to mention, but I met Tony Danza a couple of years ago, and I can't believe
I
we
was
did
going
the
to bring it
whole-
up. I figured we'll post a
We
picture
did the
at some
whole
point.
extravaganza, and I never brought it up.
Was he as nice as you'd expect him to be?
He was just as nice as you would expect him to be, and a lot shorter than I was expecting. Like,
Huh.
I'm all like foot taller than him. That's a bit of an exaggeration, but I'm a lot taller than him.
Well, we'll post it. Yeah, we'll post it when the time comes. So yeah, we've covered all of this at pretty great length now. So I guess to get into your final extravaganza, green light or cancel. Again, remember Nick's not here, so we're only gonna have 4 potential votes in the event of a tiebreaker. Where we will post a graphic later in the week that'll have everyone's vote. So Nick's vote will be part of it. So check that out, S1E1 Pod on social media. But yeah, let's go in the order I see you in. Gordo, starting with you.
Ah, jeez.
That's Travolta, not Danza.
Hey, yo, wait, yo.
It's still not AOAO. It's still not.
He did it wrong again.
It's forever going to be that. I'm going to cancel this. And I don't know why, because everybody was good in it. I just did not like the show. Like, I thought that there were obvious holes in the writing, but the individual actors themselves weren't bad, and the chemistry between them weren't bad. I think it was the writing and the setups and everything, just something there didn't work. I mean, I'm going to go with the network here, and I'm going to cancel this.
Joe.
I went back and forth on this one. There is some stuff I really can't stand. You know how I feel about some of these references, right? Like we didn't talk about something too, like the Dennis Rodman reference, right? Where it's like, oh, these pink hair basketball player prima donnas, right? We were like, it just immediately dates stuff so poorly. But then I really liked a lot of this too and had a lot of actual laughs for it. I'm going to give it a light green light because I do actually want to see where it would go. I don't think we'll ever see the other 4 episodes that aired. I don't think anyone will ever see the other 9 that didn't. But if somebody said, here's the second episode, do you want to watch it? I would lean to yes, so it's got to be a pass.
It's on YouTube.
Oh, is it? Well,
yeah.
Is it the same quality?
Better. It was a little bit better, which was super frustrating because there's an account that had a bunch of episodes loaded. Must be just like the 5 or whatever. Same account has them all loaded that I pulled this one from. And the second one, at least, was like not great quality, but better quality. I'm like, it's the same guy loaded them. Like, it's probably off the same fucking tape. Like,
right.
Why did... But yeah. Ferg.
So throughout this episode, I know I had a lot of negativity towards this show, but it may surprise you that I came into this recording struggling with my decision. Because like Joe, there was a lot I liked and a lot I didn't like. And I really liked Tony as a dad. And I thought a lot of the moments at the end with him and his daughters were really sweet. And I know I picked a lot. I still don't know. I'm going to surprisingly lean green light, even though I hated the intro to this show. So it started really poorly. But it goes to show you that if you end well, it can turn everything around. So green light from me.
So I've already said I think Hudson Street was worse than this show. This show has a lot of work it needs, right? And I don't think it in real life had time to flesh itself out. But there were a lot of things I liked about the show. Now, I still think it was kind of a bad show, but I see so much potential. Like Tony was great, and if you use Shaun Weiss more, the Stuey character, and you incorporate him a little bit more into it, and you kind of make it so the daughters aren't as insufferable at times, and I don't know, and less chaotic. And that was my other big problem, was I felt like it was too much chaos for too much of the episode, and it was almost stressful to, like, if you were to put yourself in his shoes, it was more stressful than enjoyable. But I think I'm actually going to lean towards a green light as well, which I think will make this one of the worst shows that we've passed.
Yes. Do you think this got the bump because Hudson Street was so bad and this came next?
I don't know. It was funny. I think I was so happy to see like Shaun Weiss, and I thought he was so funny even in this limited role that helped. But that is going to be 3 out of 4. So regardless of Nick's vote, it is going to be a pass. So congratulations to the Tony Danza Show. You do get the green light from us. I want to thank everyone who listened. Thank you for following us throughout the extravaganza. More theme months to come as we can think of some stuff. Thanks to everyone who listens. Again, go to S1E1pod.com. That's where you can find all the links to our social medias and all that stuff. Make sure you rate, review, subscribe, DM us, do all the stuff because we really like interacting with you guys. And that's all we have for this week. So thank you. Goodbye.
I think we got the best perverted little telephone.